At Balad Air Base on April 17, 2006, an American liaison officer wrote 2 words in an operations log: absolute animals. Then he stopped, because those words weren't just a description, they were a problem. He had spent 13 months watching the most advanced special operations system ever built run at full capacity, and still fail to stop a bombing campaign tearing Baghdad apart. What he had seen the previous night didn't fit inside that system, and for the next 48 hours he kept asking himself the same question. What exactly did I just watch? Stay with me, because the answer doesn't start with the raid. It starts with a number that should not have been sustainable. 150. In early 2004, Baghdad was averaging 150 car bombs a month. Every night, raids went out, Delta Force hit targets. Rangers sealed escape routes. SEALs cleared buildings in full kit, moving room to room under night vision. Every morning, the reports came in, and the network was still intact. Inside the operations center at Balad, analysts watched it happen in real time. Patterns forming, targets identified, operations launched. And still, they were always late. One analyst would later put it bluntly, "We were not chasing them, we were following damage. That was the system. Precise, coordinated, overwhelming, but it moved in cycles and the enemy had learned the rhythm." Then the British arrived. 60 operators, no new equipment, no new authority, nothing that should have changed the outcome. And yet, within weeks, something shifted. Not visibly, not immediately measurable, just enough to make people uncomfortable. The first sign wasn't success, it was friction. An American planner watched a British team prepare for a raid. 15 minutes, no full layout, no extended confirmation cycle, just a location and a decision. He wrote in his notebook that they are skipping steps. At the time, it sounded like criticism. Later, he would realise it wasn't. Because the next thing he saw didn't make sense. A raid was scheduled for 3:30 a.m. The British moved it. 2:17 a.m, no briefing, no discussion, just moved. After the operation, the Americans checked the timeline. By 3:30 a.m, the target was gone. Different street, different house, missed by minutes. The British hadn't moved faster, they had moved earlier than the pattern. That was the moment something clicked. Not fully, just enough to feel wrong. The liaison officer wrote another line, different tempo. He still thought this was about speed. It wasn't. Because what the British brought into Iraq wasn't acceleration, it was interruption. The Americans ran operations on cycles, the British operated in the gaps between them. And gaps don't announce themselves, you either see them or you miss them. No one understood how far that difference went. On the 16th of April 2006, a farmhouse outside Yusufia. Routine target, mid-level leadership, nothing unusual on paper. The breach charge detonated, the door disappeared. The house opened fire immediately. Not scattered, not reactive. Prepared. In the first 4 seconds, 3 SAS operators were down. Inside a narrow corridor, night vision flared white from muzzle flashes. Visibility was gone. Blood was already on the floor. This is where most teams pause, regroup, reset. The SAS did not. They pushed forward, over the wounded, through the doorway they knew was already covered. An American operator watching the footage later said, "They did not stop, they just kept going. Not faster, not louder. Just forward." When it was over, 5 dead, 5 captured. Phones, documents, laptops, on paper a routine result. But the part that mattered hadn't happened yet, they didn't leave. For 4 hours they stayed inside the target. Not securing slowly, not clearing twice. Working immediately. Phones pulled, numbers extracted, connections mapped on portable systems outside the building. By 4:30 a.m, 17 active numbers were identified. By 6:10 a.m, 3 of them matched intelligence that had been sitting untouched for 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Inside a system built to process everything. Missed, ignored. Until now. That was when the liaison officer wrote it, absolute animals, but this time it wasn't confusion. It was recognition, because what he had just seen wasn't a raid executed better. It was a system being bypassed. Over the next 52 days, that single operation turned into 13 consecutive raids, each one tighter, faster, not in execution but in decision. Until the 7th of June 2006, an American airstrike hit a safe house near Bakbar. Inside was Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, officially an American success. Technically correct, but incomplete, because the chain didn't start in the air, it started on the ground, in a farmhouse, with a team that didn't stop when the shooting did. But the most telling reaction didn't come from the Americans, it came from the enemy. Captured communications later showed something unusual. Not higher losses, not panic, something more subtle. Before, raids followed patterns, timings were predictable. Movement was manageable, after raids came at irregular hours. Targets were hit before relocating. No warning window. One line appeared in an internal assessment. It said, "We lost the rhythm. They didn't know why. They couldn't see it, because you can't adapt to something you can't detect." And here's the part that made operators uneasy. It wasn't just how the British moved, it was where they chose to stay. Most units treat the moment after a firefight as exit time. Get out, reset, regroup. The British treated it differently. They stayed inside the most dangerous window, long enough to turn the fight into something else. One Delta operator put it simply, "We thought the raid was the mission. They treated it like the start. That shift changed everything." Over the following year, 3,500 terrorists were captured, hundreds killed, and car bombings dropped from 150 per month to 2. But that outcome came with an uncomfortable realization. The system hadn't evolved on its own. It had been forced to, by a small group of men operating just outside its logic. A former Delta NCO later said, "They were as good as we thought we were. The liaison officer never changed his entry. He didn't need to." By then, everyone at Balad understood what those two words meant. Not faster, not better equipped, not operating on a bigger scale. They were operating earlier than the system could react. The Americans built a machine to hunt people. The British stepped in and hunted the moments those people existed. And once that changed, the outcome changed with it.